Welcome.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members. I appreciate the opportunity to present before you. Today we're presenting on AB 1511 that would narrow the firearm loan provision to allow a loan only between immediate family members and for hunting purposes, and allow that loan only during the hunting season. Currently, there are two loopholes in California's background check law that allow to provide for an easy avenue for dangerous people who are prohibited from having loans to get to them from an acquaintance without a background check. The first one allows anyone to borrow a gun from an acquaintance for up to 30 days without a background check. The second allows a person in California with a California hunting license to borrow a gun and to keep it for the entire season. An AB 1511 would fix both of these loopholes and keep guns out of the hands of dangerous people. The bill retains the exemption for loans to close to family members who are best positioned to know if that relative who would be using the firearm would be a dangerous person or not. The second one would retain the exemption for hunting, but would narrow it to only during the time that the person is currently hunting. Currently, I have two witnesses, and appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, good morning. I'm William Rosen, counsel at Everytown for Gun Safety and Moms Demand Action for Gun Sense in America, the nation's largest gun violence prevention organization. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today in support of AB 1511, an important bill to close an unusual loophole in California's firearm background check law that allows people to borrow a gun for an extended period without a background check. This loophole is broader than that in other states with strong background check laws, and it gives dangerous people who are prohibited from possessing firearms an easy way to get their hands on a gun. Everytown for Gun Safety is dedicated to addressing this country's gun violence epidemic. In California, over the last 5 years, nearly 14,000 people have been shot and killed, and countless more were shot and injured. Fortunately, California is a leader in enacting comprehensive and common-sense gun safety laws. Chief among these is a requirement that before a person acquires a gun, he or she undergo a criminal background check. Under both federal and California law, certain categories of people are prohibited from possessing a firearm, including convicted felons, domestic abusers, and people with dangerous mental illness. Background checks are the enforcement mechanism for these vital laws, and the most effective way to ensure that a prospective buyer is not legally prohibited from having guns. In just the past 5 years, the background check system has blocked nearly 40,000 attempted firearm purchases at California dealers by people who are prohibited from having firearms. Now, 18 states have taken the vital step of enacting laws that require background checks on all handgun sales, whether from a licensed dealer or between unlicensed individuals. California has been a pioneer and leader in this effort. In California, when an unlicensed person transfers a gun to another unlicensed person, they meet at a licensed dealer who facilitates the background check. It's simple. Unlike the other states that require background checks on unlicensed sales, California's law has certain reasonable exemptions to this requirement. But California has two troubling exceptions that are much broader than the laws in the other states with a comprehensive background check system. The first allows anyone to borrow a gun for up to 30 days without a background check, and the second allows a person with a California hunting license to borrow a long gun and keep it for the entire hunting season. These exceptions put California in the unusual circumstance of lagging behind other states with strong gun violence prevention laws. No state with a comprehensive system like California's that requires background checks on all gun transfers has such a broad exceptions for loans, and the same is true for an exemption allowing a person to keep someone else's gun for the hunting season. The danger from such a large loophole is real. Media reports document several recent shootings around the country involving loaned guns. In one heartbreaking example, a father shot and killed his 5-year-old daughter with a borrowed gun. The girl's mother had taken out a restraining order against her ex-husband, which legally prohibited him from possessing firearms. But he borrowed a handgun from a friend, telling his friend he was going target shooting, and instead he picked up his daughter, drove until she fell asleep, and used the borrowed gun to kill her and himself. Had the shooter undergone a background check, his friend would have known that he was not allowed to have a gun. AB 1511 will fix this loophole in California law. It would retain the exemption from background checks for loans up to 30 days to close family members who are best positioned to know if the relative asking for the firearm is prohibited from possessing it. And the bill would also retain the hunting exception while the licensed person is out hunting. I respectfully urge this committee to vote aye on AB 1511. I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Richard Martinez. My son, Christopher Ross Michaels Martinez, is dead. Shot and killed in Isla Vista, California, May 23, 2014. A student at UC Santa Barbara, 20 years old. Chris was our only child, and we loved him more than words can describe. Tragically, our family is not unique. Every day in America, 91 Americans are shot and killed, and hundreds more are shot and wounded. It wasn't like this when I was growing up, and it's not like this in other developed countries. We know from experience in our country and from other developed countries that common sense measures reduce gun violence. Common sense measures have made driving a car safer, flying in a plane safer, and buying food safer. We can do the same with guns. Our organization, Everytown for Gun Safety, is not anti-gun. We are anti-gun violence. You, our state legislators, have been a leader in the national effort to reduce gun violence. Today, while California has some of the best gun safety laws in the country, we can and must do better. Every day that goes by, more people die in situations that are preventable. We owe it to our children and our families to do better. I'm here today in support of Assembly Member Santiago's AB 1511, a common sense measure that will help keep guns out of the hands of dangerous people and reduce gun violence in our state. There is currently a loophole in California's background check law. Under current law, a person who is prohibited from possessing a gun can nevertheless easily obtain one by borrowing it. No background check required. That doesn't make sense. Assemblymember Santiago's AB 1511 closes that loophole. This legislation will help keep California in the forefront of the national effort to keep our families safe from gun violence. Please vote to make our families safer. Please vote for AB 1511. Thank you, Senators.
Thank you. And we appreciate your coming here today and sharing your story with us.
I want to tell you one last thing. I brought my son here to the state capitol when he was 12 years old, and we went on a tour. And he was able to go on the Senate floor, and he sat in one of your chairs. My son was here. I don't remember, but he sat in the Senate chamber in one of those desks. My son was just a great kid.
Yeah.
And it's wrong that people in this country, more American civilians have died in America since 1966 than all the combat deaths in all the wars that this country's ever fought. When I was growing up in the 50s and 60s, it wasn't like this. We need to do better. Thank you.
Thank you. Others in support.
Amanda Wilcox on behalf of the California chapters of the Brady Campaign to Prevent Gun Violence and Support. And once again, I've been authorized by the Law Center to Prevent Gun Violence to express their support for this bill.
Thank you.
My name is Sarah Keeler. I'm a volunteer with the California chapter of Moms Demand Action, and I am in support of this bill.
Thank you.
My name is Lisa Arnold Fernandez. I'm a volunteer with Moms Demand Action. I support this bill. My heart goes out to Richard. My brother killed himself when he was 21 years old with a handgun. I don't know how he got it. So I support this bill. I am a mother of a preschooler. I'm a mother of a kindergartner. I support this bill.
My name is Anush Georgian. I'm a volunteer with the California chapter for Moms Demand Action for Gun Sense in America. I support this bill. The Santa Monica shooting started 2 blocks from my house, and it ended 2 blocks from my children's preschool.
My name is Sonia Grant-Sindell. I'm a volunteer with Moms Demand Action. I'm a mother of a 17-year-old and a 20-year-old, and I hate that I have to worry every day when my daughter goes to her large public high school about whether or not she'll get home safely.
My name is Barbara Ramirez. My son, James, was murdered when he was 18 years old here in Sacramento. And I am in support of this bill, and I'm a volunteer with Moms Demand Action.
Thank you. And again, to people with personal experience about this, we can all only imagine what is what it's like. So thank you for being here. Are there speakers in opposition to the bill?
Oh, sure.
Hello there, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Mark Henley with California Waterfowl Association. Our association strongly opposes this bill. It makes it much harder to loan a long gun for hunting purposes. That is a very common activity. People loan to friends all the time during hunting season. It has not been a problem. Licensed hunters aren't using firearms irresponsibly or in a violent manner. In fact, our safety record is very good. In terms of this bill and the justification for it, there really is no data to support it. And this bill wrongly implies that hunters are a safety threat. Please note that if you get a hunting license, in order to get a hunting license, you have to take a 10-hour safety course, pass a test, and then also purchase your license and associated stamps and fees. Criminals are not going to go through that process, take that time and effort to do that. So for those reasons, we oppose. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Madam Chair. Members, Roy Griffith, the California Rifle and Pistol Association, in opposition. This bill doesn't work mainly because it says while engaged in hunting. The Fish and Game Code describes while engaged in hunting as to hunt, pursue, kill, catch, or attempt to hunt, pursue, kill, catch, or capture. So in other words, I couldn't even loan a firearm to my friend to drive out to the field. Just that time spent driving, they would be in violation, let alone something very important to me is the safety and education component of it, what I spent the last 15 years of my career being involved in. We don't want to just hand somebody a firearm and go out and hunt. We expect them to take that firearm, go practice with that firearm, become familiar with that firearm for weeks in advance of the hunting season, rather than just take that firearm and go out and hunt. And this would present a huge blockade of that opportunity and that safety, let alone loaning a firearm for someone just to learn it, try it out before they go purchase a similar one. So for those and many reasons, we oppose.
Madam Chairman, members of the committee, Craig DeLuz with the Firearms Policy Coalition. I'm a parent of a young man who's a student at UC Santa Barbara who was literally within hundreds of feet of when this incident occurred in Santa Barbara. And I remember speaking with my son, and the one thing that concern that he expressed to me was he was in a position where had he been a potential victim, he would have had no way to defend himself. And so I just want to note that in many cases, in mass shooting situations, in many cases, and it goes rarely, very unreported, is that oftentimes those individuals are stopped, in fact, by an armed citizen. With that, I want to express really our concern about this measure in terms of eliminating the ability to loan a firearm beyond immediate family. If you have an individual who's dealing with a potential domestic violence situation or has a temporary restraining order against somebody and is genuinely in fear for their safety, what you are now telling them is that unless you have an immediate family member who owns a firearm and can loan it to you, you now not only have to wait the period of time that you can put together the funds in order to purchase a firearm, and we're talking several hundreds of dollars. Not everybody has that ability to just come up with that immediately. Then they've got to go and purchase it, and they've got to wait the 11 to 30 days that the Department of Justice has told us it takes them to do the background check. All of that time, this individual is being left vulnerable. And we believe that is unconscionable. Right now, the system that is in place right now allows an individual that they know, if they know the person is not prohibited, it allows them to be able to loan that firearm, and that person is able to protect themselves until they're able to obtain a firearm for themselves. It is for this reason that we oppose this measure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, Kathy Lynch, representing the California Sportsmen's Lobby, Outdoor Sportsmen's Coalition of California, and Safari Club International, in strong opposition. Again, conflicting code sections with the Fish and Game Code, increased penalties, not clarity with definitions, with family members, and the loan provisions that often go on with hunting, and the fact that they are well trained. Thank you.
Madam Chair, Sam Paredes representing Gun Owners of California, and I'd like to make sure that the members of the committee know that it is already illegal under both state and federal law for somebody to loan a firearm to somebody who they know or should have known is a prohibited person. That's already existing law, and they can be charged. I'm also representing the hundreds of thousands of people in California who use a firearm to successfully defend themselves and do not become victims. I am also coming to represent myself, who is a victim of a home invasion in my own home that I was able to protect because I was a gun owner, a participant in a bank robbery, and I was able to make sure that no one was hurt in that bank robbery because I had a gun. So, we appreciate the sympathy for those that are victims, but there are a lot of people who would be victims if we were to continue to control these guns. There are laws on the books that prevent the illegal loaning of firearms. For these reasons and a whole bunch of others, we are in strong opposition to this bill.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, for the record, Dan Reed with the National Rifle Association. We are in strong opposition to this bill, and I would like to echo the sentiments of those who spoke before me. Also, this was classified as a loophole. This is clearly not a loophole. It's articulated in law how this process is to go. And the idea that this is somehow going to make us safer is just unfounded. There are already laws on the books, as was stated in the previous law, that could be used to go after someone who is already a prohibited possessor. This is riddled with consequences for many common transfers, including those who may need a firearm to defend themselves, as well as all the problems that go along with the hunting exception and how to be engaged in it. Also, there's some questions as to those who might be going into law enforcement, who are looking for law enforcement training, and it's a post-training that is not done through a law enforcement agency. In a private organization, could you actually loan them a gun there for use in that class, et cetera? So there's a number of questions and problems, and again, this is not going to make us any safer, and with that, we're in strong opposition. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair and members, Corey Salzillo here on behalf of the California State Sheriff's Association in opposition to the bill.
Thank you. Others in opposition? Seeing and hearing none, are there questions or comments from committee members, or is there a motion on the bill? Senator Monning?
I'm prepared to move the bill. I do have a comment through the chair. I appreciate some of the concerns raised, but I just have to comment that the suggestion that more people are protected in homes where there's gun owners in the home, the data that I've reviewed show that more people are the victims of guns in homes from accidents and suicide than are ever protected in homes where there are weapons present. So I just think we need to be clear. The efforts represented by the author and the supporters of this bill will not adversely impact people who don't have a malicious intent. It will close the gap of the possible loaning of weapons to people who might be a coworker, somebody that you're not familiar with their background or what they may intend to do with the gun. Again, law-abiding, responsible gun owners should not be fearful of what this law is designed to do. It's designed to prohibit the reckless sharing of firearms that may end up at a crime scene. I'm glad to move the bill, Madam Chair, at the appropriate time. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Monning. Senator Stone.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As we've heard when my friend mentions the reckless sharing of weapons, we have federal laws that already address that issue. But I'm going to ask the author a question. If you have a woman that has a bad breakup, she's a victim of domestic violence, her boyfriend says that he's going to kill her. She's never had a gun. A friend of hers takes her out to a shooting range and shows her how to use a weapon. And there's a temporary restraining order on this person. And she wants to borrow a weapon to protect herself in that 10-day period that sometimes goes beyond 10 days for her to get a weapon. Is your interpretation of the law is that she cannot have an opportunity to borrow a weapon to protect herself?
If this law passes, and if you are not said spouse, registered domestic partner, parent, child, sibling, grandparent, or grandchild that is related, I don't believe you would be able to. But look, and when that happens in any case, first thing I'd say is call law enforcement. Law enforcement is trained. They've got safe placement homes. And they can give you good advice in terms of what to do. I wouldn't recommend for anybody to go arm themselves and sit at their door and wait for a perpetrator to come. If you've got a serious domestic violence issue, and look, and it's happened in my family, like unfortunately it's happened in other families. Not my family, but we all know somebody who that has happened to. The best advice, really, quite frankly, is to go to law enforcement who is trained, who knows what to do, who can relocate. But I wouldn't suggest go out and get a gun.
Well, I appreciate that. I'm glad that you have the confidence that law enforcement agencies can provide the protection for a woman that's been battered and threatened. As you know, public safety agencies are stretched, and my concern is that we're going to leave this woman unprotected, and there's a possibility that if she can't protect herself, that she become a victim. Also, as this bill proceeds through the legislative process, I hope that you'll strongly consider hunters exemption. I think that they're singled out here in your bill. I think it's there's no data to suggest that hunters are contributing to this reckless lending of weapons that are killing people. And then just finally, I'll just say, guns don't kill, people do. And I see this onslaught of Second Amendment attacks over the past few weeks here in the state capitol, which is rather alarming to a lot of people that have communicated with my office. And I'm going to urge a no vote on this.
Thank you for your comments, Senator.
Okay, thank you. Seeing and hearing no other questions, would you like to close?
Thank you, Madam Chair and Senators. I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Thank you. I am going to support the bill today. I do think the issue of clarifying as the bill moves on to appropriations, where it's going, what while engaged does hunting mean? Does it also mean when you leave your house and are going to the place where you're going to hunt? I would thank Senator Monning for his comments. I would note that the actual research shows having a gun in the home is 5 times more likely to lead to the death or injury of a family member or friend or a suicide than that a perpetrator would be kept out of the home. And again, we have laws about not loaning. You wouldn't loan your car to a person without a driver's license or car insurance. This is simply to make sure that we limit guns to appropriately registered gun owners or for very short loaning periods. So I think it's a very good bill, and please read the roll.
Hancock.
Aye.
Hancock, aye. Anderson?
No.
Anderson, no. Glazer?
Aye.
Glazer, aye. Leno?
Aye.
Leno, aye. Liu? Liu, aye. Monning?
Aye.
Monning, aye. Stone?
No.
Stone, no.
Okay, that bill passes. Thank you. And we have our last bill of the day, item number 10, AB 156. So we're waiting for either Senator McCarty or Assemblymember McCarty or Senator De Leon. I'm going to use our wait period to lift the calls on the bills. Everybody's here, so why don't we do that? Let's look.